Blimey, you're ugly! Hello and welcome to a brand new synth soundset walkthrough with me, the Unfinished. Today we are looking at Zebra Apotheosis, which is my latest soundset for Zebra, obviously. This is a collection of sounds which is a really nice blend of analog and organic sounds. It's very dark, it's cinematic, and where it's come from is basically I've, over the last, 5 or 6 years, I've had the immense fortune and joy to work on a number of reasonably high-profile films, TV series, and video games with some really amazing composers, such as people like, obviously I've worked with Hans Zimmer a few times now. I've worked with guys like Lorne Balfe, Ben Wolfish, Sasha Dikichian, Stephen Barton, Paul Haslinger, Martin Phipps. The list goes on. And in the process of those projects, whether I've been doing exclusive sounds for composers or not, I've built up a rather large collection of, in particular, Zebra sounds that I'm now going through and turning into releases. Now, these are not sounds that have necessarily been used in the actual films or shows or games that I've been working on. These are more sounds that either haven't been sent as part of the project, because when I work on a project, if someone asks me for 50 sounds, in my programming sessions, I'm more likely to come up with 200 sounds and then pick the ones I think fit the best. So these come from a world of unsent sounds or sounds that didn't get used in projects. Sometimes these are sounds from projects that were abandoned for various reasons. Maybe the reason the music was being written, the thing that's been written for didn't happen, or it went in a different direction. And also there are some sounds from personal projects where I've worked on films and games and have made sounds just for myself. That waffle having been got through, I've then gone in and reworked and remixed these sounds to make them release ready. And I'm now going through them and amalgamating them into what I think are reasonably coherent sound sets for release. So this is the first of those, and this is called Zebra Apotheosis. Let's see how many times I pronounce that correctly today. So although this has come from 2 or 3 specific projects the sounds initially were made for, I wanted to give it a bit of its own vibe, and therefore have been listening to some recent interesting soundtracks that I've really enjoyed whilst finessing these sounds to try and give them that cohesiveness. So, for example, I've been listening to Tyler Bates's latest John Wick soundtrack, which I think is the best one yet. I really like it. Ditto with Brian Tyler's, don't get the 2 Tylers mixed up, new Fast X soundtrack. I think that's probably his best Fast and Furious soundtrack that he's done. I really enjoyed Lorne Balfe's Luther film soundtrack. Didn't enjoy the film as much. The Wig! Have you seen The Wig? Anyway, and also a film score for a film called Takedown by my favourite band of all time, Hybrid. So those are things that have been floating around my head as I put these 2 sounds together, but that's more than enough waffle. It's lucky I do chapters now, isn't it? You can skip all this crap. So let's move straight into the sounds. We're going to start with the Zebra 2 version, even though, interesting fact, the original versions of pretty much 99% of the patches in this collection were made originally in Zebra HZ. So it's actually this time around the Zebra 2, which are the reworked versions. Interesting? I don't know. Anyway, let's go into these bass lines and crack on with... Oh, this is volume 1 of Apotheosis. There are 2 volumes of Apotheosis, and this is just this walkthrough for volume 1. There'll be another video for volume 2. We'll get there in it. We'll play a sound in a minute, I promise. Yes. Right, let's go. Oh, that was worth the wait. So yes, a nice crunchy evolving sound. The pitch is evolving, the filter's evolving. It's got lots of stuff going on, and that's very, very typical for this sound set. There's a lot going on in the sounds, but subtly, not too invasively. Nice percussive one with lots of atmosphere in it there. So one of the things that's come up quite a bit in a lot of the bespoke work I've done over the last couple of years is creating sounds that do something. So there has to be some kind of movement. Pitch is an obvious one, filtering is an obvious one, but sometimes just bringing different sounds in and out within the patch, but always to have something, some sort of flow, some evolution to the sound, so that nothing is static. Another beefy one. Let's have a play with the mod wheel. So closing the filter to really get to its sort of percussive textures there. So each patch comes with interesting things programmed into the mod wheel. Often there'll be a bit of filtering, but I've tried to add in some other stuff as well, something that really brings out another element of the character of the patch. And of course, there's also XY pads rather. Most have 4, some of the simpler sounds will have 3, like the drum hits, that kind of thing. And again, hopefully they bring out some interesting and different elements of the character of each sound. One of the great things about being able to release patches that have initially been done as bespoke work like this is that the bespoke work is what challenges me the most. So it's not just me making a sound, I guess. There's a collaborative element to it. So there's a bit of me in there, there's a bit of the composer in there, and in some ways there's a bit of sometimes the directors and the producers, because they have their visions too of where they want the music to go. So again, there you can hear that mixture of the synthetic and the organic going on. Let's try to mod wheel this one. Closing the filter again. So there's the bass lines. We'll move on to basses now. As you can see, there's lots of darkness and atmosphere and energy. And these, it's worth mentioning that Apotheosis has a lot of tempo patches in. So you've got bass lines, drum loops, sequences. That and the sort of atmospheric stuff, the pads and the soundscapes is what I get asked to do the most. So it's natural that something coming out of bespoke programming sessions like this does, we'll have a lot more of those. There's less in the way of keys and leads and that kind of thing. Nice and grumbly. Not that many basses, and the focus has been a bit more on the bass lines for the low end. So again, that synthy organic vibe. You've got the synthiness coming from the sort of the punch of it, and then the attack is quite sort of organic, I feel. On some drums, we've got a handful of sort of drum hits. Useful for those little accents. Tone to this one. And then we'll move on to keys. Like I said, not much of this, but hopefully nice little bits. And similarly with the leads. The keys and the leads are sort of separated out. The keys have a nice kind of ethereal quality, and the leads are a bit more sort of gnarly. Loops. So there's quite a lot of drum loops. This was particularly indicative of one of the projects I worked on. I had a lot of loops to choose from for this particular release for Apotheosis. There's a possibility, if I'm feeling generous, that I might do a sort of expansion at some point with some more of the loops that didn't make it into Volume 1 or Volume 2. So with these loops, there's quite a lot of expression and using a lot more channels to come up with different sounds and play them alongside each other, which that patch is a very good example of. Of course, you've got the big punchy cinematic noise percussion, like this one as well. So I like to think, and you can disagree or agree with me, that the blend of sort of the analog synthiness and the organic on here really brings out quite an interesting and reasonably unique tone for the whole across the whole soundtrack. You can put a bunch of this stuff together, the scapes and the loops and what have you, and very quickly, start putting together a cue that's got quite an interesting vibe to it, I think. If you've got a cue and you're going, I need something different. I really need something that's just not expected here. I think Apotheosis is going to be a great option for that. There's something a little bit sort of about it. And you can quote me on that. And of course, another reason for there being so many drum loops on this sound set is that Zebra's so brilliant at doing drum sounds. It's absolutely my favourite synth for programming drums. Okay, and now moving on to pads. Now for me, there's not a lot of pads in this sound set. There's maybe only, what's that look like, about 20? Normally I do more than that, especially in a 150 patch sound set. But there we go. I'm obviously suffering from some kind of fever doing this one. It's very nice, quite noisy, but very ethereal and sort of ambient. Nice tail to it too. Soft glassy pad, that one. Again, these pads are not too fussy, but they've got that element of movement still in them. Slight creepy texture to that one. And onto Soundscapes. So classic one finger patches, press it and instant environment. Again, here we've got quite a few different things going on at once just to add to the movement. Let's see what the mod build is on this one. Brings out some of those other tones. Nice kind of organic industrial feel to this one. One of my comedy patch names. I think that one's unplayable because it's kind of micro-tuned, so it's some of those keys aren't going to be playing the note you're expecting. Classic dark drone. Again with that kind of pulse element in there, so probably a case of just fiddling with the LFOs to change the timing of it if you want to. Make it faster, slower. Whatever suits your cue or your track. That's enjoyably creepy. If you're listening to this in your studio speakers or your good quality headphones, that one really comes out. All right, we've got some sound effects. Not something I often do, but I've been leaning into it a little bit more recently, just because it's sometimes what's called for on job. So nice and bright and glitchy pitch down bass thing. Nice accent. Right, and then we're on to our sequences. So sequences, again, similar to basslines and the loops. Lots of little subtle things going on and some movement and fun and that mix of synth and organic sound again. A little bit of the unexpected. I seem to remember this one's quite unusual. Yep, pretty unusual. Subtle pitch shifting for that tension. I think there's quite a bit of that in this sound set, and both volumes. There's a lot of tension in there. And final sequence. Again, you've got that filter evolution probably through the LFOs, or in this case, it's envelopes. Again, and some synths, so some interesting oddball stuff that doesn't quite fit anywhere else. In this case, very distorted synth brass. And there we go. That's a quick flick through some of the Apotheosis sounds in the Zebra 2 version. Now I'm just twiddling this along so I can move over to Zebra HZ. Bye bye. And right, so as I mentioned before, Zebra HZ was basically the format most of these sounds, almost all of them, was done originally. So this is kind of the original version, and the Zebra 2 version is the new remixed version, which is the opposite of what I normally do, but to avoid any complications, I've just still called the Dark Edition the version where you get both of them. Sure, it makes sense. But as now we've got Zebra Legacy, and everyone kind of probably owns HZ now, I don't know, might think a bit differently about it, we'll see. Basslines rather. Nice patches where lots going on. Bit of melodic stuff going on there. Let's see what the module does here. That's quite nice, brings in the sort of distorted synthiness. Takes out the tribal bit of it. Nice. Gives you a different flavour to that patch. A more subtle atmospheric bass line as well. So again, that need for something to be programmed into it that gives that sort of movement. Where that cuts. That's probably so quite an interesting variation on the envelope there. Suddenly cuts it out and then builds it back in again. And similarly here, suddenly cut out there. So that gives us that kind of almost that sort of reset vibe to the movement of the filter and the pitch and so on. Sometimes you just need something simple. Let's try the module. Then on to basses. As you could example of one of those nice organic percussive basses that you'll find in Apotheosis. Let's see what the module does here. Whoops, hit the microphone. Might have to edit that out. All right, couple of drums again. Cinematic noise. And then again, very few keys and leads, so we'll just quickly go through these. I was going to tell a story then that would have given away something that I can't. Oh, that was close. That previous sound, the cipher, just reminded me of something from a job, and I almost said something I shouldn't have. Anyway, that will remain a mystery forever. And there's ethnic quality this. And then onto loops, lots of loops. I don't know why I did that noise. So this has got a kind of hand drum vibe to it, and try to build in some things that make it sound like it's actually been played, not just programmed. This is probably a good one for this, so let's have a look. So, filter kind of does what you expect. So lots of different noise tones contained within there, and then comb should be a bit mad. Tune it a bit there if you need to, and then obviously dry as a bone. Loads of reverb and delay. So hopefully that'll be adding extra elements of fun for you. And that's on every patch. Nice low one. Again, that cross between synthetic and organic. See, who needs one of those great big modular wall thingies? Several do it for you. For a lot less money. And take you a lot less time as well. And you're less likely to get divorced. Open this one up. So the drums and loops is really where I like where Zebra blurs that line between the synthetic and organic. Chuck in some effects, distortion, delays, reverb, and it really comes alive. This is a funny one. Something a little simple in there, just in case you need it. But still with just that edge of movement, so it's not static. Let's open up the module for the filter probably. Okay, and on to some pads. Where are we? Do. Nice bit of subtlety in the pads. Nice analog feel to that one. And like I mentioned before, there's not as many pads as usual. This is one of my favourites, this one. Lots of movement. And surprisingly small amount of CPU usage on that one for a for a zebra patch using the Diva filters. Okay, and then into our soundscapes, which are going to be all the darker for being in the dark zebra. Hopefully you can hear this one over the aeroplane going overhead. This one is quite low. We'll bring the filter up. Take that aeroplane. Yeah, so it goes from very subtle to quite noisy with the module. Devil's Breath, every bit as cheery as you'd expect. Ghostly's probably quite cheery as well. Proper one-note wonder, that one. One-key wonder, even. Choose your key, and off you go. Cue written already. In fact, just combine it with one more and you're away, as long as they sort of weave in and out of each other nicely. Quite nice and subtly creepy. The nightmare continues. Told they were exciting and bright and lovely. I am working on a more ambient and nice zebra sound set, which hopefully I'll be releasing next year, where not everything is dark and trashy and in your face and pulsing. Cut that out a bit quickly. It's aimed at more sort of ethereal and tuneful and pleasant sounds. It's about time I did that, really. Okay. Onto the SFX. Again, handful of these. Well, it's the same as before, isn't it? I mean, it's just the same amount as in Zebra 2. I don't know why I have to announce that. Nice big bass drop, flyby kind of vibe. Okay, and then on to our lovely sequences. Nice bit of tense, inharmonic sort of vibe here. Another of my more esoteric patches. Again, another one of those patches that moves a little bit and subtly, and then at the end of it plays with the pitch to add that excitement. Quite percussive on this one. Happens if we play with the mod wheel. Stuff happens. And then finally onto our little weirdy synthesis. Oh my god.
Synthesis. Me like the synthesis.
Yes.
Nasty hobbit to steal my synthesis.
Nice sort of broken sound there. And there we go. Hit the bloody mic in. And there we go. That is Zebra Apotheosis, Volume 1. Or Zebra Apotheosis 1, as I think I've just called it. I've dropped the volume on this one for some reason. I don't know why. But it's out there now and I can't change it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you dug the vibe, that blend of analog and organic, the darkiness, or darkness, as a normal person would say. So it's 150 patches, and obviously if you get the Dark Edition, that's 300 patches, because you get all the Zebra 2 patches versions as well as the Dark Zebra versions. And there's also a Volume 2, which I'm going to do the walkthrough for shortly. And both of those Well, the Zebra only versions will be priced at $24.99 plus VAT, and the Dark edition will be $34.99 plus VAT. And then for a limited period, there will be a bundle of both 1 and 2, which basically gives you all 4 elements of the sound set. At, I think that's $54.99 plus VAT, so quite a big saving in total. Yes, so especially if you're on my newsletter, of course, and you get 25% off anyway. Way! If you aren't signed up to my newsletter, do it quickly before I release this. If I've already released this, do it anyway and get saving off the next thing. Waffling. Okay, well, again, like I said, hope you've enjoyed this and you've enjoyed the sounds that you've been listening to and you're finding them interesting and a bit different. And I'll see you over on Volume 2 walkthrough if you're going to join me there. If you've already watched Volume 2 and you're now doing Volume 1 for some reason, I mean, I'm not going to judge you, but, think about your life choices. Okay? Right. See you anon. Ta-ta. Weird hand signals. Bye-bye.